He's one of the greatest strikers of his generation, a physical marvel, a goal-scoring machine. But what if I told you his dream club? Once I told him to his face that he was simply too weak to ever make it. This is the unbelievable story of how that single crushing rejection forged an unbreakable legend. If you live for the stories of resilience and defiance that define our beautiful game, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. You are not going to want to miss this one. Our story doesn't begin under the dazzling floodlights of the Champions League or with the roar of 80,000 fans shaking the ground. No. It begins in the quiet, sterile confines of a small office in Warsaw, Poland. Inside, a skinny, almost gangly 16-year-old boy named Robert Lewandowski is sitting in stunned silence. He's listening to the words, the cold, clinical verdict from the management of Legia Warsaw, the biggest club in the capital, the team he grew up dreaming of playing for. We're sorry, they tell him, the words echoing in the small room. You're too weak, too prone to injury. We will not be offering you a contract. For so many kids, for so many aspiring players, that would have been it. The end of the line. The dream so vivid and real just moments before shatters into a million pieces. The door to his future doesn't just close. It's slammed shut in his face. In that moment, Robert felt his heart physically break. His youth coach at the time, Krzysztof Sikorski, tried his best to console the devastated teenager, wrapping an arm around his slumped shoulders. "Listen to me," he said, his voice firm but kind. "One day you will become a truly great player." But as Robert looked out at the city, those words felt hollow, like a distant echo from a world he was no longer part of. It's a huge moment of crossroads, isn't it? That kind of rejection from your childhood dream club could break anyone. What do you think you would have done in his shoes? How do you even begin to pick yourself up from that? Let me know your honest thoughts down in the comments below. What the suits at Legia Warsaw failed to see wasn't the boy's physique. It was the raging fire they had just stoked within him. That fire had been kindled long ago in the heart of his family. His father, Krzysztof, was a national judo champion who also played football. His mother, Iwona, was a professional volleyball player. In the Lewandowski household, sports weren't just a hobby. They were the air they breathed, the blood that pumped through their veins. They taught Robert more than just technique. They instilled in him a spirit of discipline, of relentless perseverance, and the unshakable will to never, ever give up. So, it was his mother, Iwona, who took charge. Seeing her son's heartbreak, she refused to let that fire die out. She got in the car and drove a silent, disappointed Robert to Znicz Pruszków, a small, unassuming club down in the 3rd Division. They were a club with so little money, they couldn't even afford a symbolic transfer fee. But Iwona walked into their offices with a mother's conviction. "Give my boy a chance," she told the coaching staff, her voice filled with a belief that Robert himself couldn't muster at that moment. "You won't regret it." And they never did. At Znicz Pruszków, on dusty pitches, far from the limelight, Robert Lewandowski began the arduous journey of rebuilding. He wasn't just rebuilding a career, he was rebuilding his body and his spirit. He threw himself into his training like a man possessed. He knew his weakness. The words "too weak" were branded into his mind. So he spent hour after grueling hour in the gym. He adopted a strict, meticulous diet, one he and later his wife Anna, a nutrition expert and karate world champion, would perfect over the years. He didn't just want to get stronger. He wanted to forge his body into the ultimate weapon, a perfect, unbreakable machine designed for one purpose, and one purpose only: scoring goals. The results came with astonishing speed. In his very first season, he didn't just settle in, he dominated. He became the top scorer of the entire 3rd Division with 15 goals, firing Znicz to promotion. The very next season, playing a level up in the 2nd Division, he did it again. this time banging in 21 goals to claim another golden boot. Suddenly, the bigger clubs were paying attention. And who came knocking? Legia Warsaw. The very team that had cast him aside now wanted him back. But it was too late. They had had their chance. Lech Poznan, one of the true powerhouses of Polish football, moved quicker. They saw what Legia had missed. They didn't see a frail boy. They saw a predator, a stone-cold killer in the penalty box. A transfer worth around $380,000 brought him to the biggest stage in Poland. And once again, he proved his worth. He became the focal point of their attack, leading Lech Poznan to the national championship in the 2009 to 2010 season. And for the third year in a row, he was the league's top scorer with 18 goals. The boy who was rejected, who was told he wasn't good enough, was now the undisputed king of Polish football. But a new horizon and a much tougher challenge was waiting Europe. In the summer of 2010, an event that had absolutely nothing to do with football would change the course of Robert Lewandowski's career forever. The Eyjafjallajökull volcano in Iceland erupted, spewing a colossal cloud of ash into the atmosphere, paralyzing air travel across the continent. At that very moment, Lewandowski was packing his bags, preparing to fly to England. He had a meeting scheduled with Sam Allardyce, manager of the Premier League club Blackburn Rovers. The flight was cancelled. The skies went silent. And just like that, the opportunity to play in England vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, over in Germany, a charismatic coach with a megawatt smile named Jürgen Klopp was building a revolution at Borussia Dortmund. He was crafting a team of young, hungry, high-energy players. And he had been watching Lewandowski for a long time. Klopp saw more than just a goal scorer. He saw an intelligent footballer, a player with clever movement, an ability to link up play, and a vast, untapped potential. So when the door to Blackburn slammed shut, the door to Dortmund swung wide open. "I knew I wanted him," Klopp would later recall with a laugh. "The negotiations were tough, but I'm so glad that volcano erupted." Who knows what his career would have been if he'd gone to England then. But the start of his German adventure was no fairy tale. The early days in Dortmund were a brutal shock to the system. Lewandowski was completely unprepared for the sheer intensity of Klopp's training sessions. The relentless, gegenpressing style demanded superhuman stamina, a constant lung-bursting effort that he had never experienced before. To make matters worse, his preferred number 9 position was already occupied by Lucas Barrios, a Paraguayan striker who was in blistering form. So Klopp played Lewandowski deeper in an unfamiliar number 10 role as a supporting forward. He struggled badly. His confidence took a hit, and his misses in front of goal became a running joke. The notoriously savage German press gave him a cruel, sarcastic nickname, Lewandowski. The fans grew impatient. The immense pressure began to weigh heavily on the 22-year-old's shoulders. But he had Jürgen Klopp. And Klopp wasn't just a coach. He became a mentor, a guide, a footballing father. Seeing his young strikers struggle, Klopp made a little bet with him. "I'll bet you €50, Klopp said with a grin after a training session. "If you score 10 goals in this finishing drill, I give you the cash. If you don't, you pay me." At first, Lewandowski lost. Again and again. He'd hand over the $50 note frustrated. But he didn't give up. He kept practicing, kept pushing. And gradually the tide turned. He started winning. Soon he was winning more often than he was losing. He was walking off the training pitch with a growing wad of Klopp's cash in his pocket. "That's when I truly understood," Lewandowski later explained. "He was doing it to push me, to challenge me. He believed in me more than I believed in myself." Our relationship became like a father and son. I could talk to him about anything. Klopp's unwavering patience and Lewandowski's tireless effort finally paid off. In his second season, he wrestled the starting striker position away from Barrios and exploded. He became a different player. He scored 30 goals in all competitions, spearheading Dortmund to a historic domestic double, the Bundesliga title and the German Cup. And in that German Cup final, as if to make a statement, he scored a devastating hat-trick against their fiercest arch-rivals, Bayern Munich. The nickname Lewandowski was buried forever, replaced by chants of his real name filled with respect and admiration. But the one moment that truly defined his legacy at Dortmund, the night he ascended to another plane, came on a thunderous evening in April 2013, the Champions League semi-final. The opponent, the mighty Real Madrid of Jose Mourinho, Cristiano Ronaldo, and a galaxy of stars. The Signal Iduna Park was a seething cauldron of yellow and black, a wall of sound. And in the center of that storm, Robert Lewandowski delivered one of the most breathtaking individual performances in the history of the competition. He scored one goal. The stadium erupted. Then a second. The noise intensified. Then a third, completing a stunning hat-trick. It was unbelievable. But he wasn't done. He stepped up to take a penalty, the weight of the world on his shoulders, and coolly smashed it into the net. A poker 4 goals against one of the greatest clubs on the planet. He became the first, and to this day, the only player to ever score 4 goals in a Champions League semi-final. The entire footballing world was left in stunned disbelief. That night, Robert Lewandowski transformed from a great striker into a global superstar. Despite reaching that incredible high with Dortmund, one agonizing obsession remained the 2013 Champions League final at Wembley. The match where they were defeated by none other than Bayern Munich. It was a bitter, painful loss. And ironically, the very rival who had broken his heart would become his next destination. In 2014, Lewandowski made the controversial move to Bayern Munich on a free transfer, arguably one of the greatest bargains in football history. If at Dortmund he was a raging fire, at Bayern he became a flawless machine. A machine programmed with ruthless efficiency to score goals. He was precise, relentless, and utterly unstoppable. He perfected every single aspect of his craft, shooting with his left foot, his right foot, powerful headers, intelligent positioning, and lethal one-touch finishing. The nickname, The Body, was born a tribute to a physique he had sculpted to near perfection, with almost zero body fat, the foundation for his incredible durability and longevity. And then, the records began to tumble. September 22nd, 2015, a date that is now etched in footballing legend. Bayern were trailing Wolfsburg 1-0 at halftime. Coach Pep Guardiola, looking for a spark, decided to bring Lewandowski on from the bench. What happened next simply defied logic, defied reality itself. In the 51st minute, he stabbed home the equalizer. In the 52nd minute, he hammered one in from outside the box to make it 2-1. In the 55th minute, after a frantic scramble, he poked it in to complete a 3-minute and 22-second hat-trick. But he was just getting started. In the 57th minute, he volleyed in his 4th. And then in the 60th minute, he produced the crowning jewel, an outrageous acrobatic bicycle kick that flew into the top corner for his 5th. 5 goals in 8 minutes and 59 seconds. As a substitute. The entire Allianz Arena was on its feet, a sea of disbelieving faces. On the sideline, Pep Guardiola, one of the most composed and brilliant minds in football, could only hold his head in his hands, his face a picture of utter comical disbelief. "I have never witnessed anything like this in my life," Pep exclaimed afterward. Lewandowski hadn't just scored 5 goals, he had bent the game to his will. If that moment of sheer individual brilliance doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know what will. It's a story of what's possible that every football fan needs to hear. So if you feel as amazed as I do, share this video with someone else who loves the game. But his greatest single achievement at Bayern, a conquest that required the relentless persistence of an entire season, was the pursuit of a record that was considered unbreakable. The record of 40 goals in a single Bundesliga season, set by the legendary Gerd Müller back in the 1971-72 season. For nearly half a century, that milestone stood untouched, a monument to a bygone era. In the 2020-21 season, Lewandowski began his hunt. Week after week, he scored with terrifying consistency. All of Germany, all of Europe held its breath. The pressure mounted with every goal. He entered the final match day of the season against Augsburg with 40 goals level with the great Müller. The minutes ticked by. 80 minutes gone, still no goal. 85 minutes, still nothing. His teammates were desperately trying to set him up, but every chance went begging. It seemed destined that he would have to share the immortal record. And then, the 90th minute. The final seconds of the season. Leroy Sané unleashes a powerful shot from distance. The Augsburg goalkeeper can only parry it. And who is there? Who is in the right place at the right time, as he has been 1,000 times before Robert Lewandowski. He instinctively pounces on the rebound, calmly rounds the keeper, and taps the ball into the empty net. 41 goals. The unbreakable record was shattered in the last possible moment. He whipped off his shirt to celebrate, revealing another shirt underneath, with the words, "Forever Gerd," printed on it, a classy, respectful tribute to the legend whose throne he had just claimed. It was the absolute peak of his individual career. And he had already achieved the collective glory he craved. In the 2019-20 season, under coach Hansi Flick, Bayern Munich completed a historic sextuple, winning every single trophy available, including the Champions League title after that infamous 8-2 demolition of Barcelona. Lewandowski was the top scorer in the Bundesliga, the German Cup, and the Champions League. He was without question the best player in the world. Every individual honor was his, except for one. The Ballond'or, which was cruelly and controversially cancelled that year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, remains one of the biggest what-ifs of his entire career. After 8 glorious years overflowing with titles and records at Bayern, many thought the then 33-year-old would see out his career and retire as an immortal club legend. But that fire the one first stoked in that little office in Warsaw was not extinguished. He needed a new challenge, a new league, a new environment to prove to himself and to the world that he was still the best. So in the summer of 2022, he made a brave, even risky decision. He joined FC Barcelona, a titan of world football, but one that was in a clear phase of rebuilding. But Lewandowski didn't miss a beat. He immediately became the leader of their attack, the guaranteed source of goals, firing Barca to the La Liga title in his very first season. He had conquered Poland. He had conquered Germany. And now he was leaving his indelible mark on Spain. The story of Robert Lewandowski is an extraordinary lesson in the power of rising up. It is the story of a boy who was told he was too weak, who then sculpted his body into the ultimate weapon. It's the story of a player who was ridiculed and mocked, who then became the terror of every defense he ever faced. It is a story of obsessive professionalism, of a strict diet, and a relentless training regimen that has allowed him to maintain his peak physical condition long after many of his peers have faded. But above all, it is a story of sheer, unbending willpower. The will to refuse to collapse after an early failure. The will to absorb criticism and use it as fuel. The will to constantly obsessively improve, even when you are already standing on top of the world. From the dusty third division pitches of Prushkov to the hallowed turf of the Camp Nou, from the crushing rejection at Legia Warsaw to the adoring applause of the entire footballing world, Robert Lewandowski has written one of the greatest and most inspiring comeback stories in modern football. He is so much more than just a goal machine. He is an inspiration, a living, breathing testament to the fact that if you have enough talent, enough dedication, and a fire inside you that never, ever goes out, no dream is too big to achieve. And that's where this incredible football story concludes. What a journey, right? I'm so eager to hear your thoughts. What moment stood out to you the most? Did his struggle with rejection or the way he fought back from being ridiculed resonate with you? Please share all your opinions, your favorite moments from his career, and any questions you have in the comments below. I truly love reading them all and building this amazing football community with all of you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.